Hey everybody, this is Buzz. How are you? We're going to discuss another line of reasoning for the theory that Jesus resurrected from the dead. We'll call this "Are Christians to be Pitied?" Part 3, because if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then we are supposed to be pitied. That's what the Bible says. Paul said if it's not true, we're to be pitied because we're following something stupid. It's true. So, check out the other videos, part 1, part 2. And part 3, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to focus on a line of reasoning that the tomb that Jesus was buried in was empty. Okay? That's something we need to account for. The two women who came to check on the tomb, according to the gospel accounts, found it to be Jesusless. There was an angel there too, and that kind of stuff. But as far as Jesus's body, it was not there. Now, you have to picture this tomb. It was a walk-in tomb. You walk into it, and you lay the person down covered in like 100 pounds. Well, you lay them down and you cover them with cloth and spices and all sorts of stuff. And it weighs like 100 pounds on the people. It's on their face, over their head and their body. And they're laid, on a bench type of thing, I think. So anyway, they're back there. Then this big stone is rolled over. It takes, a few people to actually move this thing. It rolls down and kind of locks in place, and it's bigger than one person because it's a tomb. You don't want grave robbers to get in there easily, so they make these things hard. I mean, if you go into a cemetery now or a graveyard, you try to get into a tomb, it ain't easy, and that's the way it's always been. So the tomb was, and then the Jewish authorities had guards out there. So here you have the tomb was actually sealed with the Roman seal, and that meant that if anyone broke it, it's punishable by death. You don't break the Roman seal in those days. So this is all part of the testimony in the Bible about what the scene looked like and what went on, the details. So, again, the ladies show up 3 days later. The stone is rolled away, and there's no Jesus there in the tomb. So, what happened to the body? That's the question that we have. There's some thoughts from skeptics about what happened to the body other than the resurrection, since that's what they believe in. One would be that they found the wrong tomb. And so obviously his body wasn't there because they went to the wrong place. Number 2, he was never buried in a tomb. He was buried in a shallow grave. Really, there's the tradition. He was buried in a shallow grave, and the dogs and birds ate his body. Or he wasn't buried at all. And there's actually Roman tradition. Some scholars will argue, and I'm not, I don't know. I would assume that there is a tradition of this, that when you are crucified as a Roman penalty, one of the issues is you don't get buried. So there would be a precedent for his body not being buried anywhere as far as Roman tradition goes. However, the Romans crucified him on behalf of the Jews, and the Jewish tradition would have been to bury the body. And the Jews were, the Romans were doing everything to appease the Jewish rulers to avoid a uprising. So chances are they would not have just not buried the body, because that would have caused a huge problem that they didn't want. So That's while there's a precedent for it in Roman culture, in this case, there's good reason to believe that he would have just been buried, and there's no evidence that he wasn't buried, other than the fact that there was a precedent that it could have happened, not being buried. Another theory would be that he was placed in a tomb with more than one, more than himself, multiple people, and so they checked the wrong person. Remember, there were two other thieves who died with him on the cross. Perhaps, one of them were missing instead, and they thought it was Jesus. I mean, as you can tell, these theories of the empty tomb don't sound all that plausible. And, if you don't believe in God and all that kind of stuff and the Christian message, and you don't think the resurrection is plausible either. So what is plausible? We have to come up with something happened. The tomb is empty. So I would love to hear what would be a plausible explanation that would, carry the weight of evidence of some sort, that would explain the empty tomb, because it's a big deal. It was empty, probably. That's what it looks like. That's a good argument to be made that it was empty, and there's no competing tradition that it wasn't, and the Jews don't refute that the tomb was empty as well, and that's a big thing, because they would have, if the tomb wasn't empty, they would have produced the body. And that's why they put the guards there, to protect against this, because they heard Jesus saying, "I'm going to rise from the dead." So in 3 days, so they put the guard. So but even today, there's the Jewish authorities do not have a competing account other than the tomb was empty. So of course they think the body was stolen. So what's your thoughts on this? Love to hear them. There's lots more to talk about. So this thing's just getting going. But this is, like I always say, this is ground zero. If you can disprove the resurrection of Jesus, then Christianity tumbles like a house of cards, or a drunk coming out of a bar and not seeing that first step. However you want to look at it. Anyway, you all have a good one. Look forward to hearing what you have. Peace.